Oh, hello there. Yes, well, we're hurtling our way through the week. N'est-ce pas? Yes, indeedy. I hope you're staying warm. I think I probably am. The thing is, I'm not even here. I'm over there. Yeah. Anyway, today I just wanted to talk about some mild observations from the last week or so in around the whole, aren't trans people dreadful issue. Yeah, it's getting a lot more vitriolic. Those particular individuals, there's about 6 or 7 of them in the UK that control the narrative in and around this, are sensing that they are on the cusp of a glorious victory. Nobody's entirely sure what the glorious victory is, of course, because one of the questions that I want asked is, what exactly is the end game here? What exactly is the ultimate game? Because it appears to be a set of borders or goalposts that are forever moving into the future, because of course we can't have trans people in sport, and we can't have trans people in women's toilets, and we can't have trans people generally. And it appears that overall the whole concept of things is that we just can't have trans people, which will lead inevitably to all sorts of things that you can just plot out into the future. I mean, luckily we do have our own plucky billionaire who's happily to be involved, on the side of good politics. Imagine that, eh? Imagine there being a bad billionaire. Ooh, they're the bad ones, aren't they? Yeah, George Soros's of the world, they're bad, aren't they? But we have good billionaires like J.K. Rowling, who, is quite happy as a children's author, someone we need to listen to. We shouldn't listen to actors in Harry Potter films, but we should listen to Harry Potter authors or something. Yes, is only too happy to poo-poo and scoff at the non-existent people that unfortunately appear to exist. And, when there are various events held which seem deliberately quite provocative, strangely enough, when people are provoked, then it just shows how evil they are. Still, do maintain that particular stance, even though it's not very pleasant. And of course our free speech warriors are heavily involved in this. I do have to like your Lord Young with this one. Why do so many people believe that Brigitte Macron is a man? Could it be anything to do with the extreme lunacy now being imposed on society? Asks Stephen Tucker, forcing even doctors to bow the knee at the trans altar. Yes, you see, because, having arrived at this point whereby the media goes into a meltdown if somebody isn't female enough for them, oddly enough they are now going into a meltdown because other people are going into a meltdown because certain people don't look female enough. I don't think anyone outside of the sort of anti-trans media is saying anything about the president's wife. It's just basically the idea that now we have certain people who spend their entire lives looking at photographs of famous people and deciding that they aren't female, male, or otherwise enough. It's a result of those things. Yeah, it's not a cause of them. Still, Toby doesn't mind that because he's very interested in free speech. Not certain people, you understand. Primarily him. Yeah, I did have to smile at this particular one in terms of victim blaming. I understand that many of them in the transgender community are feeling angry, afraid and frustrated with the changes happening in the world right now. But remember this, people didn't take issue until you targeted children, women and the LGB. This situation is a result of your actions. Either you participated in them or stayed silent whilst they happened. Yes, indeed. So it's all your own fault. You see, if you exist as a human being and other people don't want you to exist, you should just basically shuffle off and not exist, okay? And if you don't like that as a concept and become uppity about it, it proves how much you shouldn't exist. And the more you complain about it, or indeed take actions to sort of suggest that you do in fact exist, then the rest of us, the decent upstanding people, will need to apply laws against you because ultimately you shouldn't exist. Still, at least all of this is going to be neatly contained within the trans issue. It won't spread out to other issues at all, will it? No, because of course those people that make a living on the back of evangelical Christian money from the States and sort of ticks and blue ticks and monies coming in from various social media platforms, paid for by nice billionaires in America, of course, I will be perfectly happy with the notion of trans people just accepting that they're totally wrong and nothing else. I mean, here's Lawrence Fox, right? Does the entirely separate human being grown inside the woman have any rights? Oh, that's not a trans thing, is it? Or do women get special psychopaths to commit murder in the name of women's rights. Yes, they do, Lawrence, which is why we need more laws, don't we? Yes, yes. Gotta really like Lawrence Fox standing up for women. He's a big on women's rights. Not certain women, you understand. Not the bad women that God doesn't like, because he's a good God-fearing man, isn't he? Yes, definitely. Yes, you see, we need to... The thing is, we do need to, think about these wider issues about, well, let's face it, drag queens. They're a big issue, aren't they? Yes, they read stories to children. How evil is that? And indeed, gay people generally, because they are all paedophiles, aren't they? They're just porn-addicted paedophiles. Ask Graham Linehan. Or indeed, Lawrence Fox. They're all paedophiles, aren't they? So we can shuffle those people off, and then we can move on to the main substantive body, which of course is not just lesbians who shouldn't really exist, and we might put up with them for a short period of time longer, but they shouldn't. And the whole thing about women, which can be really uppity, can't they? Because they have those weird non-male things going on with them. Yes, really, really dodgy. So what we need to do, of course, is park our tanks on various other lawns, and you can see exactly the direction of travel here. One is reminded inevitably of the 1980s, when there was generally in the early 80s a social movement which was a lot more accepting towards gay people, and that came to a screeching halt, and all of the bigots jumped up and down because of course there was the punishment from God, which was a disease, which meant that we had to pass loads of laws and attack these dangerous individuals that were coming after our children. We had to have laws, didn't we? Had to have laws, very effective laws, which meant that gay people shouldn't exist because, as Thatcher rightly said, children being taught that they have the inalienable right to be gay, which of course they don't. And of course we enacted all of those laws, and we can all see how brilliant it all was. Except now, of course, that isn't the case. Now what we need to do is equally good laws that won't work against trans people, because historically that's the way it's going to, well, not work, isn't it? Still, doesn't really matter if a few of them commit suicide. They shouldn't be disgusting perverts in the first place. There you go, QED. Oh, and by the way, if you see any of these people, demonstrating or something, right, okay, it's the rest of us that are victims, all right? The rest of us, all right? It isn't the most vulnerable in society we should be worried about, is it? No, of course not. Or, hang on, have I got that right? Oh, I get confused now as to who exactly is the victim here. I'm sure it's Lawrence Fox, and I'm sure it's all the lovely lesbians at Sex Matters, all three of them, yeah? And I'm sure it's J.K. Rowling with all of her, oh dear, I've got so much money I don't really know what to do with. I could do something really useful with it, but instead I decide to pick on a tiny group of people who effectively bring no harm to anybody. Yes. Anyway, hopefully all of these people will be legislated out of existence. Hurrah! And we can all be safe, because then our children will be safe, apart from, things like huge economic and social issues which, will make their lives miserable compared to their parents. But let's not worry about that, eh? Let's not worry about that, because after all, that's just the nature of reality. We must all accept that nature of reality, but not other ones, yes. Still, enjoy. Have a glorious on to midweek thing, won't you? Stay safe.